on to give you the full conference championship NFL preview for this week. We have 2 games and 4 teams left in total. We've got the Patriots going to the Broncos. We're going to cover that game first. And then we've got the Rams going to Seattle. We're going to cover that game second. I had this predicted at the beginning of the playoffs. 3 out of the 4 teams remain. The one team lost last week, Buffalo Bills. I thought they'd be in here instead of the Denver Broncos. However, it is what it is. I've got 3 out of the 4 teams, and we're going to give you our predictions. We're going to go through key injuries, some keys to the game for each team, and then we're going to go through at the very end some FanDuel lineups, players we like, players we don't like. We're going to go through the rankings at the end as well on all the players, and let's get in. First game, New England Patriots at the Denver Broncos, 3 p.m. Eastern. Over under is 42.5 points. New England is favored by 4.5 points, and I'm going to go into why that may not be a good thing here soon. However, Tanner, are you excited for your New England Patriots on Sunday back in the AFC Championship?
Absolutely. Can't be better playing on Championship Sunday. After that, going to the Super Bowl, where it'll be a rematch one way or the other. Either the Seahawks are looking for redemption in their last Super Bowl loss, or the Rams from 2019 against us. Could not be more excited. Just the energy's in the air. I've been waiting for this game all week, and I've been waiting for it for about 6 years now.
Yeah, it is going to be a good one in Denver. It's going to be a cold one in Denver. Luckily, I don't think we're going to have any snow in either game this week. It's just going to be super cold throughout the U.S. The Southeast United States is getting hit pretty hard, even in the Midwest. So it's going to be a cold one in both these games, but sticking in Denver, first off, we're going to go through some key injuries. The Patriots, Harold Landry is ruled out. That is going to be a big time miss for this New England Patriots squad. He was the regular season leader in sacks with 8.5 sacks. They did get good news with Carlton Davis. He cleared concussion protocol, practiced fully today. That is good news for their secondary. And then as far as Denver goes, we know Bo Nix is ruled out. They have Jared Stidham at quarterback now. J.K. Dobbins was ruled out today. Unfortunately, he's going to have to wait till the Super Bowl if he wants to make an appearance. And Troy Franklin is questionable. Good news for the Denver Broncos. Pat Bryant, wide receiver, cleared concussion protocol. I believe he had over 30 yards on the first drive. Then he went out of the game and was concussed, and he's going to be back this week, which is going to be a big help for Jared Stidham and this offense. It's going to be 2 elite cornerbacks on each side of the ball. Pat Surtain for the Broncos, Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots, 2 of the best corners in the game, 2 of the best young corners in the game. It's going to be fun to watch those 2 go back and forth against the star wide receivers in for New England and for the Broncos. Now, going into road teams that are favored by 4 points or more. They are 0-10 against the spread, 4-6 record straight up. This is not great news for the Patriots. The 4 wins have been on average by 4 points per game, and all AFC teams have actually lost that have been favored on the road in the playoffs. And that would be the 1976 Steelers, the 1977 Raiders, and the 2011 Steelers. 2 out of those 3 games have been played in Denver. Not great news when looking at the history for road opponents favored in Denver. The altitude is going to be a factor. The fans are going to be lively. It's going to be a playoff environment in Denver. The fans haven't had an AFC Championship game in a while, so they are going to want this one. One of the more memorable games where the road team favored by 4 or more and won was the Seattle Seahawks in 2015 in the NFC wildcard game when Blair Walsh missed a 27-yard field goal in 2016. Heartbreaker for the Minnesota Vikings in that one. We'll see what the Patriots can do in this one. Tanner, do you have anything to add on the New England Patriots side before we get into the keys of the game?
Keys to this for us is just going to be maintaining possession of the football with Drake May. He's been fumbling it a little bit too much lately, turning the ball over, which really doesn't happen a lot with him. Still put up good numbers last week. He had 3 touchdowns. That's not to be, underappreciated. He's going up against 3 of the top 5 defenses now, back to back to back weeks in the playoffs. Certainly, what he's done so far this postseason looks great on his resume, but we're not here to build resumes in New England. We're here to win championships, and it starts with this Sunday in Denver. Am I a little bit nervous about the game? Of course I am, but I think believe it or not, look for Drake May to have a great game against the Broncos. If it's one place they've been weak defensively, it's those intermediate throws over the middle, and especially at covering tight ends as well. Their run defense just got gashed last week. Truthfully, didn't really love a lot of the defensive adjustments that the Broncos made last week. Now I know that was James Cook, and this is will be Ramondre Stevenson, but certainly some things that we could have found in the film room to target this week against the Broncos. They looked beatable last week for sure, and now of course they don't have Bo Nix. They have former Patriot Jarrett Studham, as they're calling him, or Stiddy, as Sean Payton likes to refer to him as. But just going back to Drake May, like this Broncos defense is giving up nearly 18 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks over the last 8 weeks. So I certainly think he's going to have a good day. And what I think should be the league MVP, it's going to, obviously be on his shoulders a little bit. Now, that's not to go without mentioning our top 5 defense, which I think does not get a lot of respect, but I'll get into some of those matchups a little bit later down the
Yep.
down the episode.
Yep. Yeah, I think controlling the clock, that's my number one key to the game for the Patriots. They've controlled time of possession in both their wins in the playoffs against the Chargers and the Texans, beating 2 out of the top 3 defenses. Like you said, Denver is no slouch. They're a top 5 defense as well, like you're saying. And Drake May, you're saying you got to ride the MVP or MVP candidate. It's looking like Stafford is probably going to win it. But, Drake May's second year already in the MVP conversation. He's 8-0 on the road this season. He has the second most pass yards under pressure, only to Dak Prescott. And he's got a great PFF grade against pressure in the run and the pass. So I think Drake May, this is all his for the taking. He's beaten 2 out of the top 5 defenses. Houston, I thought arguably is the best defense in the AFC. I'd probably put Denver number 2. I think Seattle's defense is probably better than both of those. They could end up even facing them in the Super Bowl, which would mean Drake May would have just faced all these top 10 defenses, top 8 defenses, and it'd be fun to watch. Number 2 key to the game for the New England Patriots: win the turnover battle. Houston number 1 in takeaways, and we saw that last week. Drake May, he got intercepted. He fumbled twice. He fumbled 4 times. 2 were recovered by the defense. So taking care of the ball is big time. But Houston number 1 in takeaways. Denver number 23 in takeaways per game this year. So a drastic difference from what they faced in the first 2 rounds. The Chargers were even top 10. They were number 7 in takeaways per game. And LAC and Houston both positive in the turnover differential. LAC's +2, Houston +22. Denver's actually negative. They're -3 in the turnover differential all season. And New England, number 10 in takeaways per game, +3. Like you're saying, Tanner, that defense is underrated. They don't get talked about enough. I think the secondary for New England is especially where they are good in man coverage and up front. They're going to surely miss Harold Landry, but the 2 D tackles for the Patriots are going to play a big role in stopping the run and stopping RJ Harvey in this game. My last key to the game, and this one's the toughest one to do, I think. The Broncos led the league in sacks this year. Stop the pass rush of the Broncos. They could not stop the pass rush of the Houston Texans. I know this is easier said than done, and the Patriots have allowed the 10th most sacks this year. Broncos number 1, like I said, in sacks. Texans number 9 in sacks. Chargers number 12 in sacks. This is definitely a tougher challenge as far as pass rush perspective goes. Nick Benito off the edge is lethal. And they have Zach Allen in the middle, first team All Pro on the D line. Those 2 are going to be a problem for this New England Patriots offensive line. They're going to need to put in some heavy sets. Like you said, Tanner, they're not so good against tight ends. Maybe they can scheme up some 13 personnel, play Austin Hooper, play Hunter Henry, and get this pass game going through the tight ends just a little bit. Maybe it'll help the run game, and maybe it'll help keep Drake May from fumbling the ball. Who knows? With some extra protection at the O line position, and then Denver, they've got three keys to the games in my opinion. Number one, try and establish the run with your All Pro line. Quinn Miners, first team All Pro, number one pass block grade PFF wise for offensive lines, number 7 in run block grade for PFF per all offensive lines in the NFL. I think they need to lean on RJ Harvey. It's going to be tough to do because the Patriots, like I said in the middle, they like to clog it up. They are very good in the interior D line. It's going to be tough to get this run game going. I think that the Broncos, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to try and get a little extension of the run game going with the RJ Harvey in the short area pass game, maybe some Pat Bryant short area over the middle, Cortland Sutton. Who knows? They're going to have to get it out quick. And that goes into my next key to the game: simplify the offense for Stidham. Troy Franklin, don't know if he's going to go. He's questionable. Pat Bryant is in clear concussion protocol. J.K. Dobbins is out. Stidham only has 4 career starts. Familiar face on the other side of the ball for Stidham. Josh McDaniels was his former offensive coordinator in New England. And then in Las Vegas, he took him to Las Vegas and they were together there. I think the last key to the game is let the defense win this game. Force turnovers for Drake May. Let the defense wreak havoc with the home crowd roaring. This crowd will be relentless. There will be a lot of noise. The Patriots will have to go silent count easily on almost every play because it's going to be so loud in Denver. The fans are going to come and play a huge factor in this game. I think it's going to be a good one. I think this is going to be a close one. Could be low scoring. I'm sticking with the Patriots, though, in this game. I think they're going to win this game. It's going to be through Drake May, through Stephon Diggs, through Hunter Henry. I think them three in the pass game, it's going to be tough to get Kayshon Boutte going on Pat Surtain, but don't be surprised. I mean, do not be surprised at all for Drake May to take a shot. He took a shot last week against one of the best corners in the league, first team All-Pro, Derek Stingley Jr. And what did Kayshon Boutte do? He came down with a touchdown. So do not be surprised for Drake May to take shots at Pat Surtain. I think this is going to be a good one. Tanner, who do you like on either side of the ball in this matchup? This is going to be a fun game for the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are going to score at least 24 points.
Okay.
Excuse me, in this one. But honestly, I really wanted to say like 28 or 30. And I think the Patriots are going to win by at least 10 points, probably at bare minimum a 2-possession game in this one. But to go into the game from a fantasy perspective, I mean, let's be honest, like there's very few great matchups when you get to this point in the NFL season. That's obvious at quarterback, even more so with Bo Nix being out. So I'll say fire up Drake May this week. Like I said, he is turning the ball over way too much lately, and he gets the Broncos defense who have allowed nearly 18 points per game to opposing quarterbacks over the last 8 weeks. That just seems like a start and forget, set your lineup and walk away from it type of decision. One guy I don't like too much on the Broncos this week is going to be RJ Harvey. Now that really depends on the status of J.K. Dobbins. He could return from injured reserve this week in
He's
time to
confirmed
play
out.
on
Confirmed
Sunday.
out.
Okay. So, and maybe I was thinking Harvey would lose snaps and touches to him, which would have been bad news for his ceiling. But I mean, I'm also worried that even without J.K. Dobbins last week, RJ Harvey only had 11 touches in last week's game against the Bills. A definitely exploitable defense, so that definitely brings some alarm there. Stephon Diggs is an interesting one to talk about because I think we're going to see him in the slot a lot. I think that he's going to play inside and get away from Surtain. Now, I also understand that he only had 7.3 fantasy points last week. He did find the end zone though, but still, he's been held to single digits in 4 of his past 6 games. Broncos have allowed only one wideout to beat them for more than 14.6 fantasy points since week 14. That doesn't look too well for Diggs, but I think we're going to move him around, find some ways to get him the ball. We might even see him, catch some balls behind the line of scrimmage, or just he's going to get the ball for sure. So I think I like Stephon Diggs this week, especially in DFS, where his price isn't the absolute highest. Now look for him more on DraftKings, where that's full PPR rather than FanDuel, but I think Stephon Diggs certainly could make a big impact on Sunday. Looking at the tight ends, I'm going to talk about both of them. I'll start out with Hunter Henry. Tight end's a nightmare at this point in the season. There's only 4 left, especially with these 4. I mean, looking at the 2 in this game, Hunter Henry is clearly the best option at the position this week. He scored 10 plus fantasy points in 3 consecutive games and 5 of his past 6. And the Broncos have allowed the 7th most points per game to tight ends since week 13. We know Drake May likes to target him down in the red zone. I think that the ball will definitely be coming his way. Evan Ingram for the Broncos. Now, I talked about him last week, said to sit him. He only scored 7.5 fantasy points last week in last week's win over the Bills. But still, I mean, that's the highest that he's had in his past 5 games. I don't think his stats will get any better this week. And he'll be catching passes from Jarrett Stidham, which is obviously a decline compared to Bo Nix. And dude, the Patriots defense has allowed only 2 touchdowns to tight ends in their past 7 games. I think Evan Ingram, you can leave him on the bench. Again, looking at the kickers in this one, I do like the rookie Andy Borregales. He scored 9 fantasy points last week, and he's posted 9 or more points in 4 of his past 6 games. I think he'll be a good option in Denver, where obviously we know the elevation helps kickers out a little bit. But Denver's also allowed an average of more than 9 points per game to kickers since week 13. And Denver has surrendered 9 or more points to kickers in 4 of their past 5 games. So look for Borregales to certainly score some points. On the other side, we have Will Lutz. Now, I know the Patriots did just give up 12 fantasy points to Kaimi Fairbairn last week, but no kicker had beaten them for more than 6 points in each of their previous 6 contests. So while Will Lutz did post a stellar 14 points in last week's win over the Bills, I think he clearly has the toughest matchup, at least on paper, of the 4 remaining kickers in the conference round. Looking at the defenses, I really like the Patriots defense, obviously. I mean, we have the biggest advantage of any team remaining of the 4 defenses this week facing Jarrett Stidham. He hasn't thrown a single pass this season, and this will be only his 5th career start in the NFL. Look for us to put pressure on Stidham often and early, and definitely creating enough sacks and turnovers to be a nice option in fantasy this week.
Yeah, it's just if you're trying to play them in DFS, I think they're the most expensive defense because of the Jarrett Stidham factor. So you might want to keep that in mind. I wouldn't mind playing a defense like the Rams, who are the cheapest on the slate, and betting that they pick off Sam Darnold. And I'll go into that later when we get into that game and what that defense has done to Sam Darnold. But that could be a sneaky play. And definitely don't be afraid to play your defense against your quarterback in DFS this week. You could definitely play a Stidham lineup with the Patriots defense and overload possibly on Puka Nakua and that Rams offense, JSN, see what you can do with that in the Rams or Seahawks game. But yeah, another guy that I think could have an impact on this game is Pat Bryant of the Broncos. You know, he had 30 plus receiving yards on his opening drive, and I think they're going to try and get him the ball. Now, it's not Bo Nix getting him the ball, so it's going to be on Jarrett Stidham's shoulders to do that. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that the Patriots win this game. My prediction is the Patriots are going to win this game, but the Broncos are going to cover the 4.5. I think it's going to be a close game. Like Patriots win by 3 or 4 in Denver. And I know, Tanner, you said that you think you guys are going to win by 10, but I think this is going to be a little closer matchup with that Denver defense. and just the crowd factor in general. It being Drake May's first away playoff game, it's definitely going to take him some getting used to. But it should line up to be a good one in Denver. Should we go into the next game, Tanner? Let's move into the Seahawks and the Rams in Seattle. Third matchup this year. It's going to be 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and the spread is Seattle -2.5. Over under is 46.5. And Sunday night football. It's going to be these two going head to head. The best offense versus the best defense in the NFL. And Tanner, I know you were saying that, Evan Ingram probably not a great play this week. I would take probably 3 tight ends in this game over Evan Ingram in DFS lineups. Possibly 4 tight ends in this game over and I'll go into that here in a second when I go over my keys to the games, but the NFL teams that enter the NFC Championship on a 7+ game win streak are 0-6. Seattle is currently on an 11-game win streak. Not good news for the Seahawks. Some injuries for Seattle along their O-line. Amari Knight and Josh Jones, both injured. Both could play. I don't think they're ruled out yet. The Rams did rule out an offensive lineman. Rob Havstein is ruled out. Byron Young, their stud pass rusher, is questionable, but they say he's likely going to play. If he's out, that's a big factor for this Rams pass rush against Sam Darnold. And let's go into the keys to the game for the Rams to start off, and then we'll go into the Seahawks. Number one for the Rams, you just got to pressure Darnold. Doesn't necessarily mean blitz him every time, because if you blitz him, he can definitely expose that. And I'm going to go into that on their side of the ball. But Darnold against the Rams in 2 matchups. He has totaled 2 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions for a total of 400 and or no, sorry. He's totaled 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions sorry. 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in 2 games, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his last game at the Rams. And then at Seattle, he had 2 touchdowns, both around 270 yards passing per game. Last year in the playoffs at the Rams, he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So, turnover merchant against this defense. He's had an interception in each of his last 3 games he's played against him, granted on different teams. But I think you got to, number 2, lean on Devontae and Puka Nacua. I think you can expose the perimeter corners. Devon Witherspoon, probably not exposable. He's pretty legit. But the other 2, I think you can expose. And the fact that you have Puka and Devontae healthy, it was just the Puka Nacua show in Seattle when the Rams lost 38-37 in their last matchup. They won 21-19 in their previous matchup earlier this year at home. So I think if you have Devontae Adams going now, Puka Nacua put up 225 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, what a stud performance from him last time out on Thursday Night Football. That was like one of the games of the year in that matchup. And we're going to get, I think, another good one here. And this may be the biggest key to the game. They've been using these heavy tight end sets, 13 personnel, a lot this year. They're number 1 in 13 personnel at 30.5%. And what if I told you, Tanner, they didn't run a play out of 13 personnel until week 6 of the NFL season, and they are still number 1 in 13 personnel. They like playing Terrence Ferguson, the rookie, Colby Parkinson, Tyler Higbee. They like playing all of them at once, loading the line, trying to get this run game established. Now, they haven't really got this run game established against Seattle in their previous 2 matchups. The run game has not been working, but it opens up the pass game playing this 13 personnel, because compared to 1 to 2 tight end sets, Matthew Stafford's yards per attempt is way higher. 8.5 yards per attempt in 3 tight end sets versus 7.7 yards per attempt in 1 to 2 tight end sets. And the main reason is Mike McDonald doesn't love to switch from nickel personnel. So you'll see him have Nick Emanwari in there playing the nickel just because he feels comfortable about Emanwari coming up, stopping the run, because he's almost a linebacker at the safety position. He's a Swiss Army knife at the safety position. So having Nicky Manwari, the rookie, is just a huge difference for the Seattle defense. And they've stuffed the run against 13 personnel. I seriously don't think they're going to be able to pass. run against 13 personnel, but they're going to be able to pass. And I think they're going to pass to these three tight ends, which is why I like all of them, especially in DFS lineups. I think Terrence Ferguson has the potential to outscore maybe even Devontae Adams in this matchup. I definitely think he has potential. If they shut down Devontae with Devon Witherspoon, and they get gashed by Puka and the tight ends. I mean, Terrence Ferguson, we saw it. He's good for some touchdowns. He's had 3 touchdowns on 20 plus receiving yards or longer this year. He could easily get into the end zone on a 20 plus yard catch this season. He's done it. So I think it's going to be the tight end show in LA. And I think at least 1 to 2 of them will score a touchdown in this matchup. Tanner, I see you laughing over there. What do you have to say about these tight ends, brother? Because I'm telling you right now, they're gonna come ready to play, and Sean McVay's gonna dial it up for
Just emphasis on the could outscore Devontae Adams,
Hey, you
because
never
man,
know, bro.
whew,
Devontae didn't do much
I
last
guess
week.
I guess anybody could, but I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to be laughing that hard. I personally think Devontae will be a top five flex play out of all the skill player
Oh,
positions, excluding quarterback.
he very well
And to
could
go back
be.
on your 13 personnel thing, man, if the Rams would have done that and stuck to that in that Bears game last weekend and just ran Kyron Williams, they would have had so much more success early on. But
Yeah,
obviously, that
which
wasn't
is what I
Sean McVay's
wanted.
best game. But yeah, I see where you're coming from
He
on the
knew it.
13 personnel.
He knew it too. He said he called a bad game, but the
Uh huh.
reason I also say these tight ends can expose this defense. I mean, they are number 29 against tight ends this season. They are one of the worst defenses in the NFL against tight ends this season. Like I just think one of these tight ends is going off. Now Ferguson definitely it's going to be tough because he doesn't play as much as Colby Parkinson and Tyler Higbee. He's a rookie. He gets maybe 30% of the snaps. But I mean, they're gonna use it. They're gonna utilize it, and I don't think they're gonna be able to get the run game going. If I'm being honest, I think they're gonna have to win through the pass game, and they're gonna have to take some shots on the outside to Devontae, to Puka, try and expose those corners. Definitely, I mean, you're gonna have to try and steer clear of Devon Witherspoon, which they did a good job of in the last game, scheming up Puka Nakua, opening them up in zone coverage and just pretty much hitting the soft spots of the defense. And Puka Nakua had 225 yards receiving. Like he went off. We could see that again. But I'm going to go into the Seattle keys of the game. And then Tanner, we'll get into the players that you like. And keys. Well, actually, 4 keys of the game, but 3 main ones. Number one, win through the air with JSN and Cooper Kupp. The Rams defense has been exposed on the back end. We went to this last week. Caleb Williams did a good job of exposing them through the air. He had a good passing day. Now, not his best day, but it was a very, very cold winter night in Chicago. And I just still think this Rams defense is exposable. Cooper Kupp revenge game. He had arguably one of his best games this season last week. JSN's going to win Offensive Player of the Year. You have to feed these guys the ball, but it's going to be all on Sam Darnold's shoulders. And can he do it? I mean, 6 interceptions in his 2 games versus the Rams this year. That is not a good sign. Um, Another thing I think that they need to do is just let Kenneth Walker cook to open up this pass game. 300 plus yard scrimmage games for Kenneth Walker in his last 3 games versus the Rams. Most recently, 100 rush yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 64 yards in their 38-37 win over the Rams. Only Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor posted more missed tackles forced than Kenneth Walker this year during the regular season. And if they can establish this run game, like I said, it'll open up the pass game. I was talking about this when I was talking about the Rams. They are leading the league in 13.7 yards per attempt when they run play action versus the blitz. Will the Rams be able to blitz Darnold? I don't think they're going to be able to blitz him because if they try and blitz him, they're going to hit him with this Kubiak play action game, and it's going to open up the pass game. And then you're going to have JSN and Cooper Kupp gash you. JSN especially has potential to be more of a factor. And lastly, you got to win the turnover battle and get home on sacks against Matthew Stafford. 7 turnovers to 1 takeaway in the 2 games played this year for Seattle, and they are 1-1 in those games. Both games have been decided by less than 2 points. Um, they somehow won with 3 turnovers at home and snuck out a victory by 1 point. That just shows you, I think, how elite this defense is in forcing turnovers, forcing stops when they need to, and if they get the Rams behind the chain, like I said, you got to get home on sacks. I think that's where Stafford struggles when they are forced to pass, can't really go 13 personnel, but then the Rams could go empty. And we've seen Seattle get exposed a little bit in empty this year. So that could be something to watch. But I think you got to get home on those sacks and get them behind the chains. Definitely keep that run game stopped. You can't have Kyron Williams or Blake Corum get going. And lastly, this is one I should have mentioned last week because Rashid Shaheed did indeed score a touchdown, but you need the special teams unit, which has been better on the Seattle side, to play a factor. If the Seattle Seahawks are going to win this game, Rashid Shaheed has the ability to score a touchdown off of a punt return, off of a kick return. He has the ability to do so. So I think that he's going to be one of the keys if they're going to win this game to win the special teams battle. I am sticking with the Rams in this matchup. I'm sticking with my prediction from the beginning of the playoffs. Patriots, Rams in the Super Bowl. I think the Rams win this one. They cover the 2.5, the plus 2.5. And yeah, it should be a good one. I think this one we could get a 38-37 game again. Tanner, what do you think? Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, Matt Stafford's going to be my number one quarterback on the week. Now, if the Rams do happen to win this game and advance to the Super Bowl, spoiler alert, everybody, I don't know if you guys know about the curse of the MVP going to the Super Bowl, but prior to Patrick Mahomes in 2022, who broke the curse, it had lasted for 23 years since 1999. Going back to Kurt Warner, he was the last player to win the AP MVP and win the Super Bowl. There was 9 victims along the way prior to Mahomes winning the Super Bowl. Names like Rich Gannon, Tom Brady 2 times, Peyton Manning, Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan, all winning league MVP, going to the Super Bowl and losing. So I'll definitely be talking about that next week if that prediction comes true. On the other side of the ball, Sam Darnold. Sit this guy. Do not play this
Yeah.
guy. I mean, he actually has the best matchup on paper of the 4 remaining quarterbacks this weekend, but can you really trust him to produce? I mean, he scored fewer than 12 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games, one of which came against this week's opponents, the Rams. And furthermore, Darnold has combined to score just 14.9 points over his past 2 games. I would be looking to avoid Sam Darnold this week. He's still ahead of Jarrett Stidham. Don't get me wrong, but definitely go with one of the other play callers if you can. Um, Looking at the running backs in this one, I do like Kenneth Walker a lot. I've actually got him as RB1 on the week.
Mm.
He's been on fire over the last month, scored 17 plus fantasy points 3 times, including 35.5 last week. I think he's going to see a huge workload with Zach Charbonnet out of action. I mean, and Walker, he shit on the Rams in the regular season. He had a combined 275 total yards and 45.5 fantasy points. He is, at least on paper, the best fantasy running back on the board. So fire up Kenneth
Mhm.
Walker where you can. Looking at some pass catchers in this one, obviously. I mean, it's 100% obvious, but JSN, I
Mhm.
mean, I can't find a wide receiver that's not named JSN or Puka that I really like this week. Both the Broncos and the Patriots receivers have tough matchups or are catching passes from Jarrett Stidham. And the Seahawks defense has been dominant lately. So as a result, I'm just going with the low hanging fruit with JSN. But I have Puka as wide receiver 1 on the week, JSN at 2.
Yep.
And then Devonte Adams at 5.
Who do you have at 3?
Now, looking at the defenses in this one, I do not think that you can trust the Rams defense against the Seahawks. I think they have the most vulnerable defense of the Final Four, and playing in Seattle is not going to make it any more of a fantasy option. They allowed 38 points and 415 yards of total offense to Sam Darnold and crew in their last meeting at Lumen Field. This could evolve into a high-scoring game as well, so I would beware of the Rams' defense. In this one, I have the Seahawks defense ranked at number 2 on the week, just behind the Patriots.
Mm.
I think either way, either kicker in this one, because it could be a high-scoring affair, I'd probably lean Jason Myers at 1, and then
Yep,
Harrison Mevis at 2.
I agree.
Now don't sleep on Colby Parkinson in this offense on Sunday.
He's my
And
tight
then
end one.
and then also don't sleep on AJ Barner to make an impact against the Rams.
Yep.
Those guys could be in the mix as well. We talked about the receivers and the quarterbacks, so yeah, that's all I've got for this one.
Yeah, I got Stafford QB1, Drake May QB2, Sam Darnold QB3, Jarrett Stidham QB4. And then I actually have Kenneth Walker second behind Ramondre Stevenson. I think Stevenson's going to be a lock, should be a lock in fantasy lineups, daily fantasy lineups, at least this week. Kenneth Walker at 2, Kyron Williams at 3. RJ Harvey, I think he's going to struggle. He's at 4. Travion Henderson's at 5 for me. And then Blake Corum's at 6. I think past that, I don't really think there's many guys. Like, you're not playing George Halani unless you want to save big bucks here and there. I don't know. I also think a guy that we didn't mention in the Patriots Broncos game that could play a factor, even though you said, it's Jarrett Stidham, that I just think they can scheme this guy up because he's kind of a weapon, is Marvin Mims. I think he could be a sneaky play this week in DFS lineups. And I got Colby Parkinson tight end 1 on the week. This is the best matchup on paper in the playoffs remaining. Seahawks against tight ends. Like, you can't ask for a better matchup. So I got Colby Parkinson tight end 1, Hunter Henry tight end 2. I've got Tyler Higbee tight end 3, AJ Barner tight end 4, and then I've got whichever Broncos tight end you want at tight end 5 between Evan Ingram or Adam Troutman. Both I don't think are going to do much. And then I got Terrence Ferguson at tight end 6. It's going to be an interesting week for the tight ends in this Rams Seahawks game. I really think the Rams are going to hit a tight end on a 20+ yard pass. Maybe it's like just outside the red zone. And I think they're gonna hit one of those in 13 personnel. And yeah, other than that, I mean, Devontae Adams, he could be a good play, but it really depends on who they put Devon Witherspoon on. Are they going to have Devon Witherspoon travel with Puka or Devontae? I don't really see the need for doing that when you have 2 weapons like they do like that. It would have made more sense if Witherspoon maybe would have traveled with Puka in their win in Seattle. But yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup. I mean, Devon Witherspoon is one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. I think he's the number 1 PFF graded cornerback in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see. FYI, for those who don't pay attention to some social media stuff, the Rams versus Broncos Super Bowl was predicted by Oz the Mentalist earlier this year when he was at the Rams facility. Devontae Adams wrote 23-14 or 24-13 on his hand, and they were mentioning the Broncos, and that's the Super Bowl matchup, and Stafford's throwing it to Devontae, and the Rams are winning that matchup. If that comes to fruition, I mean, put your bets down on Rams to win 23-14 or whatever Devontae had. I think it was 23-14 written on his hand, and see if that comes true. But I'm sticking with my Patriots, Rams. Tanner, is that who you think is going to end up in the Super Bowl, or do you have Patriots, Seahawks?
I think I'm leaning with the home team in this one, or at least I'd definitely rather face them. I feel like.
Yeah,
Man,
not as
it's gonna be
potent
a
of an
crazy game.
offense.
But at least for this Sunday, I think that in that Rams Seahawks game, they've got, in my opinion, 5 of the top 5 players that you'd want this week. That being Puka, JSN, Kenneth Walker, Kyron, and Devontae Adams.
Yeah,
Dude,
Terrence
it's gonna be
Ferguson, baby,
fun,
fire him
man.
up.
Divisional matchups in the playoffs get me excited, even more so when it's on Championship Sunday. It's a shame that we
Yep.
don't get to spank the Bills around tomorrow, or excuse me, on Sunday. I wanted to have
That would have
2
been good.
divisional matchups, but No, I'm excited to watch that one. Hopefully the Patriots game goes well, and I'll still be up
Still be
for it,
watching.
not just
Yeah.
disgusted with the league. But
Yeah.
no, I think it'll be a good one. And either way it goes, it's going to be Mike versus Sean in the
Yep.
Super Bowl. When looking at the head coaches in this one, that
Yep.
being Sean McVay, Mike Vrabel.
Could be Mike versus
Sh-
Mike. You never know.
Relax, relax.
But yeah, I mean, I think that the Patriots and the Rams, I just also think that whoever wins this game, I hate to say it, Tanner, is going to win the Super Bowl. The NFC West has been loaded all year, and I just think it's all battle test, and the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl. I think right now they're sitting at 3.5 point favorites for the NFC team over the AFC team in like pre Super Bowl odds right now. So,
You
um,
know what?
it
We've been there before with the Rams when they were 14-point favorites against us in the Super Bowl with the greatest show on turf. That's the Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt offense that we're talking about from the year 2000, 2001, and of course when they had just won the Super Bowl in '99. And we came in there and gave them belt to ass. So it's going to be a good storyline either way, if it's the heavily favored Seahawks or heavily favored Rams or a rematch with Seattle to see if they can undo the Malcolm Butler heroics of about 10 years ago. Or,
maybe
like I said, if the Rams could get revenge for two Super Bowl losses that they have against us. It's going to be fun, though. I'm excited, man. Championship Sunday. Are there any
yeah,
better words in
guys.
all of sports besides the Super Bowl? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, this is the second best weekend of football besides the Super Bowl. You get two primetime games, two great matchups on paper. Four of the best teams in the NFL remain. I'm gonna put out on Sunday morning FanDuel lineup. Just some players that I like. We went through kind of our rankings, who we have. I think the Patriots and Broncos defenses. I think that game's going to be more defensive, like focused. Now, you could get a very heavily defensive game in the Seahawks Rams, like we saw earlier this year, 21-19 in LA. But I'm just betting more on the Broncos Patriots to play a little better defense. Both defenses have been better. The Seahawks have been prone to getting exposed, and so have the Rams. And these teams know each other. Third matchup in a well, probably a little over a calendar year, but third matchup in the 2025 season. It's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be a fun one. Hopefully, you guys set some FanDuel lineups. Maybe we'll put out some best bets as well. One I took last week that I like again this week is Kayshon Booty's over on longest reception because he always seems to catch a deep ball. So look out for that one. I know Pat Surtain's going to be probably on him most of the game, but they're going to try and get him on Riley Moss a little bit, I think, and see what he can do against old Riley Moss if he can contain Kayshon Booty. I think it's going to be kind of an X factor, him and Pop Douglas in this matchup. But it should be a good one. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our 40 minutes of rambling on about two games. But I think we covered a lot for you guys. If you have any questions Sunday morning on your FanDuel lineups, any fantasy playoff implications you're playing in any fantasy playoff leagues, feel free to shoot them our way and we'll do our best to answer them. And thank you guys for tuning in to the BA Sports Podcast. Check out for this one if you're watching live. Thank you for watching. If you're listening on the audio side, thank you for listening. This is going to be out on Saturday before the conference championship games take place on the 25th of January. Stay warm most of the US unless you live in Florida. It's going to be freezing cold. So stay warm, stay inside and watch some football and enjoy this weekend and enjoy Conference Championship Sunday. And we'll look forward to hosting the Super Bowl episode here in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that one. Thank y'all for listening to the BA Sports Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.